Hey y'all, hope you're doing well today. So it's super hot. I'm filming later in the day than I normally do. I try to film at least before noon. Most days I'm able to do that. Today I feel like I'm dragging my feet and it's like it just didn't work out, and so I'm sitting here in the heat in my Jeep, and I've got the air going, and I'm ready for fall. I'm just so ready for it, and in the South it's like, sometimes we get a fall or an autumn and sometimes we don't. It's almost like summer sometimes can extend all the way in through, even like November. I remember, a Christmas in the past where I was wearing, a t-shirt, and it's not uncommon. So you just really never know. Some years we have a week or two where, if you're wanting to drive around and find the best fall foliage to take in all the beautiful colors, it's like you literally have a week or two and then they're going to drop. Especially if there's been a drought or whatever. And then other years it's, you have you get to enjoy a longer fall season. So I'm just so ready for it. I hope that everything's going good for you. I know the weather's been crazy, not to mention all these natural disasters or whatever it is going on all over the world. It's just, sometimes it just kind of feels like, like the end times, doesn't it? It's like, but my dad mentioned when he was a kid, and he's in his 70s, right? So he mentioned when he was a kid being on the front porch, which is what a lot of Southerners do, is, front porch sitting. We love it, right? There's always a breeze on the front porch. You sit on the patio though, that concrete is going to hold in that heat. And so it's like you're just, it's, you're baking if you're sitting on concrete. But anyway, side note. So he remembers his grandparents talking about, literally saying this old world can't last much longer, because through their eyes in their time it felt like things were just so crazy that they just knew in their bones that the end of the world was going to be coming any moment now. You know what I mean? So it's just really interesting to hear about that, and then to for us to just be rocking along and feeling like for the most part things are going okay, and then for everyone to start getting on the same page, it seems like, with things that that just kind of seem to be plaguing the world, that are unusual, and they when they're all happening at the same time, it's hard not to take notice, right? And who's to say? Maybe there's meaning there, maybe not, I don't know. But what I will say is this: it's incredible when you find yourself in a situation where your mind is totally tied up in this small, immediate situation in your life that just feels all-consuming to the degree that you don't even notice the rest of the world. And so it's something that I feel like we probably all experience at some point in our life. Hopefully it's not ongoing forever, our whole life, because it kind of has this arresting type quality to it, like this imprisonment type quality to it. When you, essentially what's happening is your mind is being controlled, and you're missing all this other stuff around you, and I open talking about, like unusual things, scary things, or even bad things, but even the good things, you can miss that too. There can be good things just, all around you, or going right past you, and you can miss it because you're just so focused on what you perceive as being very important in your immediate reality. And the truth is, it's not important. It's a falsehood planted, I believe, by the dark side when you are a spiritual person and you believe in energetic forces that are beyond our perceptions, right? Our immediate human limited senses. When you believe that there's more to this reality, I truly believe that there are distractions that are planted in our lives, like right in front of our face, to keep us focused on the wrong things. And that's really the basis of the message today, what we're going to be talking about. And so the first thing that came to mind when I was journaling for this video, actually journaled on it yesterday, was the thought of spinning your wheels. And it's funny because I always share with you all that I want to get the wheels turning for you, and I think that's gonna really my saying that to y'all is going to be very illuminated and expanded on just naturally as we go through this discussion, because I have good intentions for you. You know what I'm saying? Because if your wheels are turning, you're going somewhere. You're not stuck, in the mud, as Ross Rosenberg would say. And you're actually, going somewhere with your life, right? Which is what we want. And it starts here. It starts within us before it can manifest out into our actual reality, material reality, right? So I mentioned Ross Rosenberg. He's got a great channel on YouTube as well. And I watched him probably more like in the earlier stages of my healing. And, all these channels on YouTube that talk about essentially their purpose is just to wake people up from being in this trance-like state where people find themselves being controlled and dominated, and their mind has been worked so much, they've been psychologically abused to the degree that they don't even recognize that they're being used, okay, and exploited. And they can look at their abusers and truly believe that they love them, and they can love them back. And the whole time they're just a workhorse, or I forget what you would call it, but like this. In other words, they're just they're being used, right? For one reason or another. So we're going to kind of talk about what it means to understand when you experience this spinning of your wheels, that it's in a situation where you're not getting somewhere. You feel like you are. You feel like you're investing your thoughts and your time and your efforts and everything. You feel like you're investing all this of yourself. You're pouring into something that matters, or someone that matters, and you're being tricked, right? So it's about learning to evaluate all of our connections, our associations, being able to assess whether they truly are reciprocal and real and founded on the right reasons, because this is your life. It matters how you spend your time, okay? And so it's about freedom. It's about ensuring that you are truly able to have that authority over your life the way that God intends for you to, okay? Because it's, to be tricked into thinking that you already are there, that you have that authority, when in reality it has been a sleight of hand, you might say. In that kind of manner, it's been stolen from you, and you really have someone up here that's like this puppeteer that's working you. It's theft, like on the worst kind of way. And so the last thing I want, now that I have woken up and I see things for how they are, I can't claim that I see everything, 100%, right and thoroughly. I can't claim that, but I certainly am not as naive and trusting as I used to be. And so naturally, you want to make sure that, you can do your part to help other people wake up too, right? Because life is a gift. That's why. That's the because. Life is a gift. And, I feel like sometimes we just are so busy on things that we think are so important, we don't even take the time to just sit down and just give our minds a rest and just pause and truly take in that fact that life is a gift, okay? And so, yes, I feel like when we talk about spinning our wheels, we're going to, in the discussion, we're going to open with this concept, okay, which is kind of cool the way it worked out. And we're going to discuss, all kind of different things. And in the end, it's going to come full circle. So I just want you to keep that in your mind as we're talking through these concepts, okay? So when you're thinking about people that keep you busy without any, actual fruits coming of your efforts, people that just keep you stuck, but yet you're busy. So there's the deception, okay? Your wheels are going like on a stationary bike, but you're not going anywhere. But you don't see that you're not going anywhere, okay? The number one tactic that you might say that these people use to keep you spinning your wheels is that they keep you busy. And I know that's kind of self-evident just from the phrase spinning your wheels. I get it, but let's just look at it from that basis level. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like a kindergarten level. And let's just break it down there, because I think sometimes we make assumptions even within our own mind that we understand something at an elementary level, and we really don't. There's parts and pieces that are crucial and critical that we miss because we've made this assumption within our own mind, okay? And so sometimes it's important to go back and reassess things, right? To get a different, to pull a different understanding that's more thorough and truthful, okay? It's going to serve us better. But these people keep us busy, okay? So of course we can speculate till the cows come home. We can speculate why all day long. And I'm just going to throw some ideas out there for you in case this might offer you some new insight. It could be simply just a power game, intended for them to just feel smart because they think that you're essentially dumb for trusting them. It's very, if that's the case, then it's just an issue of extreme immaturity. These people who are in adult bodies, but they're very immature in their minds. So literally it could just be playing a game, a power game. It could be for entertainment. Just entertainment. I'm thinking about like a cat when they are, cats are predators, and when they are, trying to capture a little mouse, for example, before they, kill it, they'll just kind of toy with it and play with it. They know they've got it. They know it's not going anywhere, especially if it's injured just a little bit. We can pull a lot from that right there. If someone can enter into your life and cause you some kind of pain up front pretty quick upon meeting them, okay, then what they've essentially done is they have taken the phrase, no one can hurt you without your permission. They've taken that and they've hooked you in and gotten you to trust them or get excited about this potential friendship or relationship, right? And then they make a little jab at you. So now you're questioning, your self-worth or whatever it is. And so that's kind of like akin to the whole situation with a cat that has, just slightly injured this, their kill, right? Just slightly, so that, it's not going to be able to run off very far, okay, and get very far, and they're able to just sit there and kind of toy with it and play with it, okay? Now I understand that's like an animal instinct, right? With cats, for example, but for that to be played out amongst human beings, how else can you see that but through the lens of that being just an evil heart for real? You know what I'm saying? It makes me think of people who are bullies. In school, it's painful to watch a person being bullied, and you think, well, one of these days, when I graduate school, I'm going to be out in the real world with adults, and thank goodness, this kind of stuff is only with kids. It's not going to be something that I'm going to have to witness or experience from other adults. And then you realize that's not the case. There truly are bullies in the world that are adults, right? Well, their bodies at least are adults, but I would certainly argue about their maturity level. So If you, just on as a side note, if you feel like you are being bullied or toyed with in any manner, especially if you have, if you're not just a total loner, if you have people in your life, whether it's a public platform or whether or not, if you just have friends and family or whatever, as long as you have other people in your life, there's a good possibility that they're going to see what you see too. So I just want to encourage you, even if you're not sharing something that you might be experiencing from a person with that kind of a spirit, okay, that's kind of a bully or just a full-on bully, just know that other people can see it too. Not everybody, some people are still, some people have this dynamic going on in their personal life, and from their own controller in their life, and they can be, their mind can just be imprisoned in this in such a way that they're incapable of even accepting the other adults that should be mature, that they're capable of this. So they're just like in denial. You see what I'm saying? So there's people that are in denial, and they're not going to see it in their own life, and they're certainly not going to see it in yours. So it's not going to do any good to try and prove something you're going through to people who just aren't there yet, who haven't accepted that evil truly does operate in this world, and even on this kind of level, just everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But just understand that there are people who awake, and the people who are awake can see it too. So in that regard, you're not alone. Okay? So, I don't know. Like I said, we could speculate all day long. Is it just playing a game, just a power game to make them feel smart because you're stupid for trusting them? Is it just entertainment, like in a predatory type way, just toying with you? Or is it to keep you from becoming aware of their true intentions or motive? Okay? Like, for example, they may be wanting to keep you distracted or disempowered in some way, while they're essentially using their association with you to their own benefit in some way. So this would be people who I can't even give you guys examples because my mind doesn't work this way, but this essentially is it's like the criminal mind. You see what I'm saying? And so in that sense, you may be like a target, and it's like the term that comes to mind that I've heard is like frenemy. You know what I'm saying? You think these people are for you, but they're really not. And so you never know what a person's doing. They may be using you as part of their facade to their community and their family, while they're off living a wild life that's hidden from their community and family, that they feel like if that was ever in the open, they would never be accepted. I mean, there are people who do bad things, and you never know the extent of a person's twistedness within their own mind. You just don't ever know, like how bad it really is. But the point is, you may actually be just serving that role to help provide their mask, to help construct their mask to their community and their family. That could be the reason. To make themselves look better, kind of on the same arm as that. You might just be serving as possibly arm candy, or just kind of like in that way. It doesn't have to be like with regards to just looking great physically, but it could just be like this person really is living a life where they shouldn't be married, but they feel like this false marriage, you might think it's real, but to them, you're just filling this role again to provide that mask to hide their true wicked heart from the community, right? And then also, it could just simply be that these people are doing what they're doing to you just simply because their mind is just clearly sick and twisted, but they get like this this pleasure from seeing how much of an impact they can have in other people's lives, to prove to themselves that they matter. It's like a way to prove, like, oh, I can to themselves, like, oh, I can affect other people in some manner. Again, it goes back to that phrase, nobody can hurt you without your permission. In other words, you're not gonna care if a stranger walks in front of you and flips you off. It's not gonna mean anything. You're just being like, I don't know what's up with that person. But if it's like your best friend, and well, that's gonna hit home. That's gonna hurt. You're gonna be like, what happened? So if you react to people when they try to poke at you, then they're like, oh, I matter to that person. You see what I'm saying? It's like a way for these people, a sick way for these people to prove to themselves that they are important in some way. So I want to share with you how I have personally experienced or observed people that I have been able to identify narcissistic tendencies in, how I have either personally experienced or observed multiple people like this, keeping others or myself busy, okay? It's like, first of all, you exist only to serve them, okay? In other words, you're just simply a sounding board. You're meant to just sit there and listen to them, or to do for them. They're constantly giving you things to solve, problems to solve, or projects, and it's like, it's stuff that feels out of place, because you're like, you seem extremely competent, and then you're handing me something like, I can't figure out how to get this work, and it's just they can't put the batteries in the right way in the remote. But they've proven in all these other ways that they're very competent. You see what I'm saying? It's almost so obvious sometimes that, you really have to snap yourself out of a state of denial that you're like, okay, something just doesn't make sense. This has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. Versus, let's look at the healthy side of this. A healthy relationship has reciprocity. A healthy relationship is going to be communication both ways, okay? They're going to want to hear what you have to say. They're going to be genuinely interested in you and your life and your feelings and your thoughts, okay? They don't want to just dump on you and unload on you and then not give a flying flip about what you got going on in your mind. You see what I'm saying? So reciprocity, both in conversation and in actions, like, okay, you can tell if a person genuinely needs help, and then, maybe sometimes they help you too. So it's reciprocal, okay? Another way that people, these people who are not, well, let's just say, keep others busy, is an extension of or an expansion of the concept that you're solving a lot of problems for them. It could be like this, like they can ask you to do a lot of research for them, and where you're having to find resources for like house projects or whatever it is, trying to watch YouTube videos on how to fix things that are real complicated. There may be a bunch of drama they come to you with, and they're just hoping that you can just step in and be the mediator in a situation. Just things like that, okay? Versus in a healthy relationship, people are going to have this gumption within themselves to try and solve their own problems. See, that's the healthy quality. Let's look at both sides, okay? A healthy quality is, because if you grew up in this kind of like an enmeshed, not healthy environment where these kind of dynamics were just all you were exposed to for the, the formative years of your life, excuse me, then it's important to just, when you're on your mission to learn from these experiences, it's important to look at the flip side, the reverse, and see, okay, well then what's indicative, what are the qualities that are indicative of a healthy association, a healthy connection, relationship, whatever. So the flip side of that is they don't just, pass everything that's difficult essentially off on you and just play like they're helpless. They're going to have this gumption within themselves to try and solve things themselves. You're going to see that. You're going to witness that firsthand. So it's still that concept of reciprocity, but even in actions. You see what I'm saying? Another thing I witnessed is they invalidate all your efforts, or you might say undermine, okay? All your efforts. And this is like in a lot of different ways. It can be ignoring you, literally walking out of the room when you're in mid-sentence and you're like, what in the world? They can redo something that you've done that didn't even involve them, doesn't need to involve them. I've seen this. It was very hard to witness. okay? They can come in and criticize and be like, why'd you do this? Why didn't you do this? Well, I would have done this. Just undermining you. If you're putting forth efforts, to, for example, teach your child, certain, characteristics that are, and character qualities that are going to be, just foundational and important for them to live a good life. You may have a close friend or family member that's swooping in and undermining you. So you just have to really, and I could expand on that with examples, but I really would rather keep it generic, because I want you to be able to, if I give you specific examples in this conversation, I don't want you to only restrict your observation to those particular specific things. I want you to be able to just keep an open mind to observe. Okay. All right. So and I feel like sometimes we won't even, let me just pause right here and say this. I feel like sometimes we won't even allow ourselves to consider that people in our lives are this way, have a sick heart or an evil heart, you might say, because there's this realization that the professional industry of psychology that exists out here has created all these different labels for all these different mental illnesses, and one of those being I think it's paranoid schizophrenia, something like that. And I'm not saying that's not real. I think it is real, but if you are being abused psychologically, that's something that's hard for anyone else to see, because these people can wear a mask to the rest of the world, and then if you try to speak out against this person to a trusted friend or family member, confidant, and all they've ever seen in this other person is just a certain way, they're likely going to assume you have a mental illness. So you have to be careful who you share these things with, and especially if this person that's very cruel, that's a bully, or that is inflicting psychological abuse, if they're a public figure, it's even more so hard for you to speak out. But the thing is, you have to have faith that truth will stand on its own, and there are, again, people who can see through the BS. Okay? There's a lot that can't, but there are some that can, and I just want you to take heart in that. Okay? But yeah, these people, sometimes they can just totally invalidate all your efforts. It can even be something where, they claim they can't hear, so they're just like and enjoy to watch you spin your wheels with repeating yourself over and over and over, and then you can witness them in a different situation where they clearly have no problem hearing. You see what I'm saying? It's really sick, honestly, and evil. So obviously the healthy side of that would be people that truly care about you, not that claim to care about you, but genuinely care about you, are going to be supportive. They're not going to be working against you in any way. They're going to pay attention. They're going to be conscious of what matters to you. They're going to be they're going to have manners. They're going to be polite. They're going to be considerate. And then they're going to acknowledge your efforts, right? And if they, everybody makes a mistake, truly, here and there. If we're just not catching something, we're not aware, we're not conscious of something, we're caught up in our own mind, and that can happen from time to time. But a person who is genuinely sorry and truly didn't mean to hurt you, it's going to be evident from their changed behavior. Okay, so that's something to look for too in a healthy relationship. What these other people do also to keep you spinning your wheels, keep you distracted and just striving, in a constant state of striving, because you're under this spell believing that you're not good enough somehow. Okay, which is unfortunately a natural result. When you just want to try and take matters into your own hands and fix things, then you take it all on yourself and try to make yourself responsible for all this stuff when you're not. It's not your fault. It's this other person in your life. I just encourage you to truly examine all your connections and associations very carefully, because they can impact your life greatly. But these people can communicate that you're not being good enough, or you're not doing good enough, and they can do this in very subtle ways. It doesn't have to be overt language calling things out. Sometimes it is that. Sometimes it's just simply just kind of, looking down at you, or just rolling their eyes and stuff like that. Let's be real. A person that truly respects you, and look. Don't you think that love isn't even possible if a person doesn't respect you? How can a person claim to love you if they don't respect you? You see what I'm saying? So a person who's just doing this all the time, or, or a little smirk, stuff like that, I'm just going to ask you to stop ignoring that kind of stuff, because it matters. Okay? No matter what they say, always look at their actions. Okay? So obviously a healthy relationship, you're not going to see that. You're going to see like this genuine, authentic support emanating from all their interactions with you. Their body language, their facial expressions, all of that's going to just resonate with you, and hear that they truly respect you and they're truly supportive. Okay? They're going to keep you spinning your wheels, pining for their attention. Okay? Because logic, here's the reason and how they can do that. Logic and other relationships you've had in your life, like friendships and stuff, whatever it's been, associations throughout your life, have taught you that that someone who genuinely cares for you is going to reciprocate. So what happens is you keep waiting. You make excuses. You're like, well, they're going to eventually, at some point, when they feel better, when they're in a better state, when things are going better at their job, or whatever it is, they're going to show me they care in some way or another. They're going to be supportive. So you're pining for that. I think that's the right term. You just keep like waiting for it and wishing for it and hoping for it, and you're stuck just in this state of longing and hoping and waiting for it. And they know that. And it just, it can give them pleasure just knowing that they've got you like that, okay? A good relationship is going to be, you don't have to wait for that kind of stuff. You don't have to wait for it. It's just, there's no games. It's reciprocal from the get-go. And it may not be totally consistent 24/7, 365, because life gets hard sometimes, and we all can get stuck in our own minds, and when we do that, sometimes we're unconsciously inconsiderate of those that are closest to us, but we rectify that as soon as possible. You see what I'm saying? You can tell the difference. Why? So why would these people keep us spinning our wheels, stuck, focused on them, right? The first thing would spring from, in my opinion, just extreme selfishness, to keep you busy so that you won't catch them plotting something or living a double life. Okay, this kind of stuff happens. And I just encourage you not to brush this off as something that's so far-fetched that it can never happen to you, because you might be surprised. I just want you to always have your guard up and be watchful, okay, and observant. Another reason, just again, could be for fun or for enjoyment, which I feel like is something that's founded on hate or evil, okay? The total opposite of love and light and everything that's good and from God, okay? There's a term, and I'm not going to pronounce it right, but I'll drop it in the video here. But it essentially means pleasure from another's misfortune, pain, humiliation, etc. So there's people that do this stuff just for their own enjoyment. It's very sick and very evil. Another reason could be misplaced revenge. And this is really interesting, okay? So it could be like either a perceived wrong. There's people who persecute themselves on a regular basis because they're stuck in this cycle of shame. And because it's almost like they have this need to be stuck in this cycle of shame. They can't admit that they're the cause of that they're the ones perpetrating that and keeping it going, because that would basically be an admission to themselves that they could get themselves out of it. Okay? And somehow this serves, they believe, even unconsciously, somehow this serves them well in their life. Okay, being a victim. And so what they can do is they can always need a villain out there somewhere to put the blame on. Okay, so that's what I mean when I say misplaced revenge. Sometimes these people who are not well can genuinely feel like you are this horrible victim or perpetrator in their life when you've done nothing. I don't know what makes these people hone in on you as being the bad guy, but they just need a bad guy. They need that in their life. And it could just be something such as you have something they don't have. It could be envy. It could be envy. Okay? Either way, any kind of dynamic that you pick up on with a person, like this kind of stuff we're talking about today, ought to tell you love doesn't live here. You know what I'm saying? It should really be a red flag for you. So if you take a look at someone who, hypothetically, let's just go there, as in our discussion, someone who truly is stuck in a victim mindset, if you look closely, you'll see that they're wasting their life away in one way or another. They're wasting their life being stuck in their mind like this. Okay, their wheels aren't spinning. They're just stuck. Okay, and so essentially, this is just my take on it. Their whole existence is yoked to the slavery of coping. It's coping that is keeping them stuck. Okay, and this can manifest. And look, if any of this resonates with you on a personal level, I don't want this to trigger you and into some kind of spiral of just more self-doubt and shaming and stuff. Just we're learning. That's what we're doing here. We're learning. Okay, so I just want to encourage you there, not to hear this message from a place of being wounded and have it affect you in a negative way. Okay, don't do that, because again, none of us are perfect. Okay, but let's just learn. Let's look at this through the lens of learning. Okay, so coping, and I think at some point in all of our lives, we experience hard things, and we may experience just even a small season of coping, because we don't want to deal with those hard feelings, right? But there's people who live their whole lives like that. That's what I'm talking about. So here's some of the ways that human beings can cope. And these are ways that are observable in your own life and in the lives of others. They're observable, where you can identify what they're doing with their time instead of actually living their life. Okay, so the first would be numbing out. Just numbing out. It could be like smoking, chain smoking, and just sitting around and drinking, or games. This could be real games, playing games with other people, like I was talking about with the cat. It could be just excessive video game playing, or any kind of games at all. It could be distractions. It could be people who just can't go a whole hour without being on the phone with somebody. Just constant distractions, right? They live on the phone, or they need extreme entertainment as a distraction, like porn addictions, or even just sexual escapades that are played out in real life, things like that. Just anything to distract themselves from the pain that they don't want to face and work out and heal within themselves, right? Because it's not easy. So their life is certainly not balanced, right? And it's not just that, but their whole life is just wasted because they're coping. Okay, so if you want to explore a super interesting word, the evolution rather of a word, is to take the word cope. Okay, so in the 14th century, and again, I got this from the online etymology dictionary, but from the 14th century, the term cope meant to quarrel or to come to blows or engage in combat. Isn't that interesting? So, but what we know it to mean, coping, is to deal with something, just to try and deal with something, right? To cope. Makes me think of that song, I think it's by Sheryl Crow. You know, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. It says, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. You know, you have to sing it before you can remember the rest of the lyrics. If it makes you happy, then why the hell are you so sad? See, and that's just it. It's like these people who are stuck in their coping mechanisms are not really happy. Okay, it's something to think about. But of course, the evolution of that term, cope, by the 18th century, it went from meaning to quarrel or to come to blows or engage in combat. It meant to meaning, by the 18th century, to handle successfully. Total opposite meaning. Isn't that crazy? How our words can just change meaning. And on that note, you know, sometimes you can be thinking that you are interjecting in a conversation in a totally innocent way and realize, oh, the words here actually have another meaning, and you didn't intend for it to be that way. Just so interesting, right? Especially like in the youth, how all these different terms come to mean or stand for something else. Makes you feel old, you know what I mean? When you when you look at that, it's like you're not in the loop on that, you know what I mean? Sometimes. So but you know, my notes make no sense at all. Okay. Oh, so on that evolution of that term, cope, to cope, how the meaning changed, that's really a perfect example of how the devil twists the truth to deceive us. See? Because there's meaning behind these words, like coping. Okay? People who are stuck, you might say, in the throes of coping, are essentially in bondage to the spirit of decay, what I like to call the spirit of decay. They're battling in their minds and hearts against pain, right? They're battling that in their hearts. They're stuck in that manner, okay? It's not a success to live that way at all. So you see how subtle even the evolution of language can creep into our lives and actually influence how we perceive how we're living our lives. Like, well, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I got this or that addiction, but I'm doing all right. You see what I'm saying? When really you're not. Your whole life potential is being stolen from you through manipulation of your mind. You see what I'm saying? Something to think about. So people that are stuck in the bondage of coping are not able to live their lives because they're just busy. They're just busy coping, right? And I understand facing unresolved traumas and pain is hard to do, but it's essential. And you know, sometimes I don't know if it's just that, you know, it's too painful, or if it requires too much effort, and it's really they're just you know, they're coping because they have the spirit of laziness, right? Or if it's an issue of accountability or ownership, they don't want to take accountability for making the wrong decisions. I don't know what it is, but you know, sometimes we need to re-examine the things that we're blaming ourselves for. Like, as a metaphor, you might think like, well, yeah, I made this decision because I thought it was like a dessert. It looks okay and even good, but in reality you realize it was like candy-coated poison, and somehow it just led you, whatever it was, like becoming friends with someone or whatever it was that snagged you. It's like it just deterred your life down this path that was never meant for you. It was never meant for you. The devil's so slick in all these different ways that he can fool us into or onto the wrong path, right? So what happens is, I want to give you like an example of two bicycles. It's like, you might think that we're all born with, or consider that we're all born metaphorically, right, with this normal functioning bike. It gets us places. Okay, we're all riding bikes in our minds. Okay, let's just go here. Do this exercise in our minds. And so we're riding these bikes and we're all going somewhere. Okay. But some people, when faced with the challenge of accepting and surrendering hard truths as we experience this life, either about themselves or about other people or whatever it is, some people look for a shortcut. Okay. And the deal that the devil offers them, remember all those stories that we went through in the book Women Who Run with the Wolves? There's always this deal that's offered, okay, just like in the Garden of Eden. It's like, hey, you know, it's like a shortcut, like you don't have to do any kind of work or nothing, just here, eat this fruit and you'll just know it all. You see what I'm saying? There's some kind of like temptation here that's interjected in our lives. And so you might think like the devil has offered them, like these people, some people, maybe even you in your life, this magical bike, okay? And the trick is that it's a shortcut. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens is it might feel right in the beginning because it can get a person's mind off of their issues, but they don't realize that they traded their perfectly functioning bike for a stationary one, and they're just pedaling and pedaling and pedaling and pedaling and getting nowhere. Okay, but they're busy. Okay, they're distracted, they're coping in this manner, right, because they're busy, but they're not going anywhere. Meanwhile, they can turn and look at you. Okay, this is how this happens. I feel like they can turn and look at you, and you're on a real bike, and you know, you're just hauling it. You know, you're going places. And so they get jealous. They get jealous, you know, so they can find reasons to get you not only off of your bike, because they can't stand to see that, but they can even get you to get on a bike like theirs, okay, or even on their bike, and get you like caught in that same web. Meanwhile, they're like, okay, let's take a look at, you know, all these things that this other person has been able to attain from their, you know, from being on their functioning bike. So the point is, we can catch, you might consider like this illness of coping. Okay, people can rub off on us. Okay, so it's a life altering mentality that spreads, and what happens is it enslaves you. It replaces our real life with busyness, pretending to be real life, and in this way it steals our real life from us. And you know, if you don't think that this is an intentional, strategic tactic from the darkness, just look at the direction of civilization. If you think about it, everywhere you look, everywhere, people are distracted, aren't they? They're busy. But most of the time, their busyness, their distractions, everything they're pouring their efforts into, their attention onto, it doesn't produce fruit most of the time. If it does, then you're not spinning your wheels. You're going somewhere. If there's fruit, some fruit that's good, okay, that's produced from your efforts, you're going somewhere, okay? That's the evidence. So, but most of the time, people who are caught up in this type of life, this lie, that's not really even real life, they're not producing anything, okay? They truly are spinning their wheels. So, you know, this was interesting. I looked up the etymology of the word wheel, and the old root is quell, Kwel, which means to sojourn or dwell. So the Old English root of dwell is dwellin, which means to lead into error, to deceive or mislead. Again, really relevant when you think about spinning one's wheel, okay? And then the other definition of the old root word quell of wheel was to sojourn, right? Or a sojourn, which means a temporary place to stay, a visit. And it also refers often to a soul's time on earth. So, and then of course you have spin, which means to draw out or twist. Are you putting all this together? You see how this is a perfect metaphor for being stuck in life, for your real life being totally just ignored. It's just going past you because you're stuck, right? You're being misled. You're being deceived. In other words, it's like this temporary, you can get caught up in this temporary deceit. This experience of temporary deceit, right? And you know, sometimes you come out of it more awakened than ever. So you have to sometimes wonder, like, okay, God does work all things for the good of those who love him. Maybe it's to evolve our souls, you know, who knows? I don't know. But I'm just giving you things to think about, right? The problem is there are people who want to draw this season in your life out. They want to keep you stuck and twist it to keep you there as long as possible. And in this fake and replacement life instead of the real one that God ordained for us. At some point, we need to zoom out and see this true cycle of life as life, death, life. We need to be able to truly zoom out and see that you know, at some point life needs to resume. At some point we need to call it what it is. We need to call the BS what it is, you know, and we need to understand that it truly is founded on the spirit of death. Okay, so if we aren't currently in the real true version of life that God has ordained for us, then we might have just joined the land of the living dead. Okay, so Revelation chapter 3 verse 1 says, "Thou hast a name that thou livest, and art dead." I thought, wow, when I found that, I was like, that's totally relevant to the message. It's like when you get stuck in the mud because of the spirit of decay, and it can come from your associations and your connections that are wanting to keep you stuck or held back from your blessings, whatever it is. When you find yourself in this situation, caught up, focused on the wrong things, that's what happens. It's like on the outside, just from your name, from, you know, your the looks of it, in other words, from the outside looking at you, it looks like it says, "Thou hast a name that thou livest," right? Like you're only existing as a label, as John Doe, right? John or Jane Doe or whatever it is. You're only existing as that, and that's it. There's no substance. That's what happens because it says, "And art dead." So we don't want to be living a false life, because essentially we're not spiritually alive. Essentially we're the walking dead. We're zombies. Okay? And our life has been stolen from us. I mean, what more regret could you have at the end of your life than looking back and realizing you never even really lived your life? You just spun your wheels. Because what? Because you kept getting pats on the back from friends or family members. Okay? Because I guarantee you there are times in our life that will offer us just total clarity, where you realize that these connections you have sometimes are not, they're not good. They're not good sometimes. And what a horrible feeling to realize you wasted beautiful opportunities in your life. I just can't imagine a greater regret. So yes, life by name only, by appearances only. That's not true. That's not true living, right? So a life sacrificed for the devil, who only seeks to kill, steal, and destroy, that's no way to live. So I'm going to ask you, has he destroyed you? Has he yet destroyed the life that God gave you, that he ordained for you, the blessings that he has set before you? They may still be waiting for you to get unstuck, right? So I just want to encourage you to think about that, and to embrace your one beautiful life that truly is a gift. So I thank you for coming along to hear the message today. I know it was a little bit longer than usual. I'm sorry, I just felt like I just needed to expand on some of those areas, and I hope that you benefited from it in some way. I thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.